Hello, my name is Thein, and I'm here to talk about single-gender education and schooling. My opponent claims that single-gender education has significant academic benefits and has provided secondary and supporting claims to her proposition, such as that it maximizes learning for students, and that boys and girls learn in different ways, and that single-gender schools break down gender stereotypes. However, I disagree with that statement, and I'm going to refute her statement by providing counterclaims with secondary claims and evidence to support it. Her first claim, which is that the advocate believes that single-gender schools will maximize. And her main claim is that there are significant academic benefits in a single-gender education. And while my counterclaim is that single-gender education schools provide little to no significant academic benefits. The advocate believes that single-gender schools will maximize learning in the classroom settings. Well, my counterclaim to that is that a same-gender education fails to show any significant advantages over a co-ed school. The advocate points out that such environment will let students be themselves, while my counter to that is that students have limited opportunities to be themselves in a single-gender environment, as shown in a study from the Oxford University Press, which was put together by two professors who are the professors of the human development psychology at their respective universities. They have stated that institutionalizing education by gender will limit a child's opportunity to expand and explore new different types of attitudes and behavior due to lack of interaction with groups different from their own, which shows that it provides limited ways to be themselves because they have more limited opportunities to expand their mindset. Also, the advocate has claimed that single-gender schools do not stop students from socializing with the opposite gender and having relationships with them. Although this isn't really, for one, that doesn't really necessarily relate to the academic performance. And other studies have shown that it does in a way stop. And the study from sciencemag.org have shown that it does that when the teacher of the school makes the gender something a focus, the student tends to spend less time with the opposite gender. Also, the advocate points out that there will be less distraction for students and can focus more on the educational aspects of school. My counter to that is that the lack of distractions fail to correlate with the academic performances of the students, according to statistics. For the statistics that she provided, which was the Australian Council statistics, was supposed to be a study done in the year 2000. And that was that students students in single-gender educational institutes scored higher than their co-ed counterparts. And the thing is that data is over 10 years old, and in a more recent review commissioned by the U.S. Department of Education concluded that the comparison of both co-ed and single-gender schools, as well as past studies of the schools, have shown that the differences between the two types of schools were mixed and often inconclusive. And this review, unlike past reviews, used purely quantitative results and did not use any form of qualitative results, so that they only looked at numbers and statistics. Also, different studies have shown that the results are also inconclusive as well, such as that was presented by Professor Smithers of Buckingham University, where between schools in Hong Kong and Belgium, where in Hong Kong the same gender schools only make up a minority, they tend to score higher, while in Belgium single gender schools make up the majority. They tend to score lower than the co-ed minority. Also, the advocate claims that boys and girls learn differently. My counter to that is that the differences between the way boys and girls learn have a little significant impact in their education. While it is true that boys and girls don't. Actually, the advocate claims that boys and girls must think differently, as boys don't hear as well as girls, and both genders perceive things differently and are engaged by different things. Although boys and girls do have such differences, it is also reported by ScienceMag.org that science and as well as other scientists, such differences have little to no impact on how well they have little to no effect on their education. And the advocate has also claimed that the gender schools lets boys and girls mature in their own pace. Furthermore, the sizes and differences in cognitive ability and perceptive abilities have shown that to be less than the difference between that of different racial and socioeconomic backgrounds, as stated from the study from the University of Pennsylvania. So that this matter that even though it's slightly different between genders, it's no more different than the differences between races and people from different backgrounds. Also, and her third claim is that the advocate claims that same-gender schools break down stereotypes and expand horizons. My counter to that is that same-gender schools perpetuate gender stereotypes and limits the horizons. For example, the advocate claims that single-gender schools broaden the students' interests in subjects, while it should be noted that the classes that the boys and girls take don't necessarily represent their stereotypes, and it reduces, like I said before, it reduces the opportunities and reduces the opportunities for both genders to work together, thus limiting their options. Furthermore, the ScienceMag.org reported that girls who spend more time with other girls tend to become more sex-typed. The advocate has also said that there's less competition in gender-biased subjects by presenting improvements in test scores, but it has been stated multiple times that such school data taken from schools have been inconclusive and inconsistent. In conclusion, I provided my claim to show that single-gender education has no academic advantages. Scientific evidence have shown that differences between boys and girls hardly affect their learning capabilities in a significant way. And I hope that I convinced you that single-gender education has no real academic benefits. I believe that it's important for people from both genders to work together in an educational environment. And same-gender schools make gender a big part, and where we should be looking past just the gender and focus on more important issues.
All right, I got to keep it really short because you went 9 minutes and 24 seconds, which means that I don't have quite as much time as I'd like. The signposting on the points is good. You seem to have done a lot of good research to counter the points. One of the things that you want to do a little bit more is contrast the evidence that you're presenting to the evidence that the advocate's presenting. Frequently, it's just a counter piece of evidence, and we don't have any explanation about why one piece of information should take precedence over the other. The one exception that I had on that was the information that you